Yes, everybody, welcome back to the channel. Apologies that this started a little bit later than was originally planned. We had some dramas with the tech this morning. So we are here now, and we're going to be talking about a potential midfield makeover. And Amrabat looks like it's probably going to happen. But there's been a late spanner thrown in the mixer. TalkSport are suggesting that he's held talks with Liverpool. And AD, which is a Dutch sports outlet, have also said that Amrabat is close to joining Liverpool. TalkSport also said that Amrabat's been on United's radar all summer, but talks are yet to develop, with the Red Devils wary of FFP restrictions because clearly they apply to us, unlike Chelsea, who just think it's a bit of a suggestion. 90 Minutes Football, which is not obviously the greatest outlet the world's ever seen, are suggesting that he's growing agitated with the move to United, and that's probably why you're seeing these talks of what's going on with Amrabat and Liverpool. Robert says only 3 hours. Yeah, a bit later. It is a little bit later. I had to do the Ash pod in the middle. So we've got me and Ash pod coming out probably tomorrow, I imagine. So stick around and stay tuned for that. But why is it a midfield makeover? Because one player does not a midfield make. Well, there's a little bit more to it than that, and Ryan Gravenberch's name has flung into the mix. And now, we talked about a potential loan move for him back in January, and his name did appear, I think we did a scout report early in the summer, looking at a potential way he could come in and, well, basically do the job that he did for Ten Hag while he was at Ajax. Really hasn't worked for him since going to Bayern Munich, and he's restless, by all accounts. According to Alfredo Padula, United have contacted him about Ryan Gravenberch, and he says the player wants to leave and has offers from 2 Premier League clubs, including Liverpool. However, the player's preference is to work for Erik Ten Hag. I saw a couple more reports about this morning. One was from the Mirror, and it seemed to be more in the Mirror that the suggestion was if a deal could be made, Ten Hag would be up for it, which that's pretty weak sauce to sort of base an entire article on, isn't it? I do think, though, if there was a possibility of getting him, I think you could. Charles says, tough one with Gravenberch. He's more similar to Mount, isn't he? No, he's definitely more of the sort of progressive midfielder that you would be looking for. Certainly someone that would play a little bit deeper. Not quite Mount, no. But yeah, I think it would be an interesting one. Danny says, can we get away this season without signing Amrabat? I think we would really struggle to sign Amrabat if we didn't sign Amrabat. Sorry, and we might actually struggle as well, to be honest. Ali says, genuine question. We have Mount, Bruno, Ericsson, and Casemiro. Who else can we buy that would classify it as a makeover? Well, Gravenberch and Amrabat. There you go. Adam says, would I take Gravenberch over Amrabat given the choice? No, I think I would probably lean towards Amrabat given what he delivers and what we require. Makath says, at this point, we should just buy the players we want and focus hard on selling the remaining deadwood for the 2 weeks left. Yeah, that's a good point. I saw something yesterday. There hasn't been many outlets regarding it, and everyone seems to be just poo-pooing it immediately, but I had to take note of it because it made me mad. And that is, Harry Maguire is sitting by the phone waiting for Real Madrid to ring him after Militao injury. What? If that's true, and surely not. Surely not. The fucking delusion to think that Real Madrid are going to get on the blower to you. And the fucking mayhem if they did. Can you imagine? Jesus. Ajinka says, still feel like the attack lacks quality. I don't disagree, to be honest. United needed such a big overhaul that I think there was an argument to be made for 5, 6, 7 players to be signed this summer. That's very unrealistic. So the fact we got 3, we should really be getting a 4th. 5, 6, 7 probably is a little bit too much to ask for. Warren Ellis here with a super chat says, love your content, Stephen. Thanks for the insights and sharing the knowledge with us. My pleasure. Just waffling shit. It's one of those, isn't it? Charles says, imagine Maguire at Real Madrid. I don't know what's... Is this worse than when they went for Thomas Gravesen? I mean, Thomas Gravesen obviously filled a hole. MKR says he thinks he's Jonathan Woodgate. Jonathan Woodgate was a far superior player to Harry Maguire. Far superior. Christopher says Rangnick was right. Rangnick was right. Rangnick just went about it in a way that caused an absolute load of chaos. And unfortunately, the group of players that we had are absolute choppers, and none of them had the bollocks to be able to go work with him. Hence the problem. Aslam says time for Anthony to show his worth, make or break. I agree with that. It's going to be a big, big season for him. You get a bit of leeway in your first season, but now you start needing to deliver. MT says Harry El Galactico. Ajinka says Maguire can do well in the slow La Liga. Not okay. In the same sense, he would do well playing for West Ham. There's a point there, but not at Real Madrid. Real Madrid play far too high a line. Real Madrid play on the back foot in Europe against the likes of City. Real Madrid are on the front foot against pretty much every other team. So, no, it'd still be bad. SK there with a super chat says, Scousers get Endo, so they can keep saying Hendo. Emotional support midfielder. Jamie says, do I genuinely think we'll sign another window before the summer window ends? I think, obviously I don't have any knowledge of this, but my gut instinct looking at the way everything's going on, I think Amrabat's going to come. I don't know if we need to sell beforehand or whatever. Mohammed says, Greenwood opinion. I've done a whole thing on Greenwood. I thought I said exactly what I wanted to say quite succinctly, so go find it. I'm not repeating myself. You know my thoughts out on there, and I don't think it's anywhere near as straightforward bringing back as people are saying, and I would lean towards not doing, is my opinion on that. And for all the arguments of wasn't convicted and he's back with the baby mother, we saw what we saw. And why is it different for some of the accusations we've seen against other players, current and former? Well, we saw what we saw. There's been an element of not seeing in those other cases that you can't discount. So that's my feelings on it. And I wouldn't want to see him back. My gut feeling is he's coming back though. And I'm not happy with that. I don't think that's a good idea. But I get the impression that United are stalling for time, testing the temperature and determined to bring him back for whatever reason. I spoke to a well-known athletic journalist this morning to sort of say, a lot of people say if this was a lesser player, he would have been sacked. And I think I might have said it myself, but I was like, well, is there any evidence of this? The only two players that I can think of that have got sacked, and I can't even really think of any youth players that have been sacked, but the only two players I can think of that have been sacked have been Roy Keane and Cristiano Ronaldo. And both have been for speaking out against the club and the manager publicly, sort of, because Keane's wasn't really against the manager, but the club and the players. And they were both fired almost immediately. I would make the argument that what both of those two did was nowhere near as damaging to the reputation of Manchester United as the situation with Mason Greenwood. But I actually can't find what I thought. I can't find what I thought would be any of the players getting sacked. I can't find the evidence of like shit players that have had a transgression and then been sacked. I can't find that. Patrick says, assuming we get Amrabat, who's in the first team, Mount on the bench, or it would be who's in form, who are we playing, what are the circumstances? 8 into 4, 4 into 3 goes fine, not a problem. Wonk Skill Rap, who's a member, says, hey Steve, great content, hope you're well. I believe that we'll get Amrabat done and maybe one more player. We do everything in the last moment. Yeah, we did a lot of business early doors this year, didn't we? Michael says, why didn't his girlfriend forgive him? Why should we not? You need to go and look into domestic abuse and see it takes about 7 instances for someone to end up leaving somebody, and the convictions in these particular tort cases are less than 1%, which does not mean 99% of those people are innocent. It means that a conviction is extremely difficult, and when there's a key witness involved who decides that they no longer wish to testify, there isn't fuck all you're going to be able to do about it. And I don't know, but I suspect that some of the airing of the evidence makes it inadmissible, which is problematic. Would I cheer or support him on the pitch? No. Apna says, loving the content. It's not possible. Is it not possible to loan Amrabat with a condition to buy? I mean, everything's possible. But I don't know what the situation is. And sorry, I got sidetracked there. One of the other things I was going to say is the fact that people are thinking because he 2 years ago was a very good player, he would still be a player that's that level now. I think he's extremely misguided, and I don't believe the level of the player should make a difference. Ronaldo arguably was on the wane and was problematic by the time he was sacked, and Keane at the time was club captain and was on the wane, but nowhere near the level the way Ronaldo was on the wane. So it's one of those. Jerin says, I'm afraid if United will come up with a statement from his partner as well. Shakespeare says, hoping Amrabat, crossing everything, but do I think Kefren Turam is a viable option or just paper talk? I haven't seen any of that. So I would have to say, I don't know at the moment. Shane says, best solution to the Greenwood situation is to release him and get rid. They got rid of Ronaldo over blasting the club, yet Shane says Mason abused his partner. I think you have to say allegedly at that point, and won't be match fit to join the team anyway. Jason says they should have loaned him this season. Thriller says, after what happened with Johnny Depp, we need more evidence. Okay, on that, it is my understanding, which I could be incorrect on, but it's my understanding that there was a complaint made by the victim, which means that the victim provided evidence, and there's also a lot more in the public domain than there ever was with the Johnny Depp situation. Once the victim made the complaint, that was what the basis of the CPS investigation was, and that key witness rescinded their evidence and no longer wished to prosecute, and I believe that loss of that key witness is why the case fell apart. That is my belief. I could be incorrect on that, but that is my belief of what happened in that situation. So I don't think it's in any way, shape or form the same, because from my understanding of what happened with Amber Heard, she made a complaint. I don't know if it was even involving the police, actually. I think it was just it was a libel situation that someone had said something in public about it. And obviously she followed through with that. The case falling apart on the back of the victim not following through with it makes it an entirely different situation. And again, there's stuff out in the public domain. And for those of us living locally, there's also information which is obviously hearsay until it's proven one way or another. But, you know, I know people who were in the same place they were the night of the incident. Like, it's quite common knowledge in the area. Stone says, the victim had a kid with him. Even if we strip Greenwood of his opportunity, he gonna blame his girlfriend for the rest of his life. I don't want to get into that. Ajinka says, what would have to happen in the Greenwood case, if anything, for me to support him? And there's a City fan in here just trying to wind people up. It says, how do you feel about Ryan Giggs' post assault case? Ryan Giggs has been found innocent, I believe. In something that went to trial with Mason Greenwood. It was a CPS case, fell apart because of a key witness. Unfortunately, because of the key witness is the person we assume it is. Obviously, I can't state these things because of whatever's. It's an entirely different circumstance. It's a totally different circumstance. I think anyone trying to compare this one to this one is wrong. It's an entirely different set of circumstances. And what would have to happen for me to... A lot at this point, because I think the opportunity for this to be mistaken identity, I think that the opportunity for this to be some sort of a role play thing, I think the opportunity for this has passed. I think if this was what some people are trying to paint it as was the case, it would have been mentioned early doors. And I worry that there's revenue at stake in this, and that I don't like it. Jeb says, let him play. He hasn't been tried or convicted yet. We're treating him as if he's guilty. Imagine it was you and the world wanted you cancelled without facts proven in court. It's not that straightforward, mate. Again, Roy Keane didn't break the law and was sacked. So, Cristiano Ronaldo didn't break the law in this instance, as far as we know at least, and was sacked. You don't need to have broken the law for it to have impacted the club or for it to be bringing the club into disrepute. Ajinka says, coming back to football, can we all collectively laugh at Liverpool? Not yet, but it looks like there's some stuff going west with Liverpool, and I'm here for it, especially if Salah goes to Saudi. And I saw this today. I spoke about it with Ash a little bit, but I'm happy to talk about it again with you guys. In terms of what's going on in Saudi Arabia, it came out of nowhere a couple of months ago, and it doesn't look like it's going anywhere west whatsoever. And actually, there was a bit of something breaking today, which I'm sure is going to happen. And hang on one sec. Mr. Red says, you were so off on the Amber Heard thing. I know you're trying to be sympathetic to women, especially on YouTube, but she was terrible to death. She hid evidence and declined to offer photos. Yeah, I'm saying it's totally fucking different. It's totally fucking different. I'm not trying to be sympathetic to anybody. I'm trying to say the situation was totally fucking different. And the way it all played out was totally fucking different. Anyway, what was we saying about Saudi? So something happened or broke today that makes me think, one, Saudi is not going away, and two, I think UEFA will do anything for money. So that's the inclusion of a wild card as Saudi Arabia into the Champions League. Now, knowing the desperation that exists and panic that exists within UEFA about the threat of the European Super League, I definitely believe that if UEFA don't allow, not that I agree with this, I don't agree with this. They're not a member of UEFA, and it makes no sense for them to be a member of UEFA. But if the Saudi League ends up as getting some wild card, it's on the back of money alone. It's on the back of money alone, and maybe a little bit of a threat of the European Super League kind of existing, because I imagine the European Super League, which we know has got fucking zero scruples anyway, would be happy to allow Saudi in because of the TV money that they would attract watching fucking Al Hilal against Real Madrid or whatever. So I think UEFA will allow this with the Saudi League, and I think then the Saudi League, with the riches that it's got, it will get facilities that start catching up to the rest of Europe, and I think it'll then, that whole region at the moment is having a bit of a soft arms race, and it's not war in the way this has been done in the past. I think they're doing it through tourism. There's a reason Saudi's building a city where they can host boxing and alcohol will be legal. There's a reason that there's Qatar wanted the World Cup and wants the Olympics. There's a reason the likes of Bahrain, which is a tiny little island, has got like a Grand Prix, and there's a Grand Prix in Abu Dhabi. And I think Qatar's getting a Grand Prix as well, or got a Grand Prix. There's a reason that all of these places are trying to get soft power through sport, and I think tourism is a major driver for that. And I think they might have accidentally hit upon something that would be enormous tourism, which gives you more tourism over the course of 12 months than one single Grand Prix hosting would, or one single heavyweight title fight would. And that is having a league with all of these global superstars in it, that people can come to Saudi Arabia as a tourist, watch these matches. That's going to be way more profitable for a company and for the economy of that country than having one title fight, one Grand Prix. So I can really see that Saudi would have pushed for the European Super League for their inclusion because of what they're trying to do. And I can see UEFA allowing them in for the same rules, because I think if they say no to them, it strengthens the case for the European Super League, which which would inevitably come around again. Henry says Saudi can have everything with money apart from that they can't buy history, which European football has, and it seems they couldn't buy Mbappe. Yeah, but look at where some of the clubs have come from that are, I don't know, the current holders of the European Cup. Money can change all of that in an instant. When I started watching football in the early 90s, AC Milan were the best team in the world, and Italian football was the pinnacle of football, and that changed very quickly to be the Premier League because that's where the money was. Ajinka says, does Klopp feel the heat if they finish outside top 5? That's 2 seasons in a row. He should do. Lee says the club need to accept the short-term flat they'll get in letting him go as opposed to the long-term ramifications of bringing him back. No individual is bigger than the club. That's what you heard when they sacked Roy Keane and they allowed David Beckham to go. SK says, Chisty, all valid points. What United are trying to do is the harder option will be easier to get rid. People saying United keep him because of money. He's not worth much at all now. I think duty of care to her and him could be an element of that. One Puggy says, Steve, to want Qatar as owners, how can you not want Greenwood back? Didn't think Qatar's morals are any higher than Greenwood's. That is a fucking bananas comparison. I'm sorry. That is a totally bananas comparison. Knight says, if Saudi get a wild card in the Champions League, then Newcastle should be banned because of PIF. Fucking hell, yeah. Like, surely. Like, yeah. That's mental. Nigel says, I read third tier Saudi League almost tripled base salary for players compared to Germany. I don't know about that. And I do know that there's some problems with Saudi as well. I know some people coaching out in the Middle East. And I said, is this true? And the reply that I got, because there's a load of adverts like Sunday League players are getting 300 grand a year. No, they're fucking not. Right? There's good players going to be getting good salaries. They're not just going to throw money at anybody, and coaches are not getting 5 million. Otherwise, you'd be seeing this from my fucking villa in Saudi Arabia. But it's not true. And there's also, for people at the lower level especially, there seems to be some problems. Like there's somebody I know trying to get someone out of Saudi Arabia, and there's issues around his leaving visa, which I didn't know was a thing. And there's complications, let's just put it that way. And it's going to be interesting to see how that one rolls out. Daniel saying, reports are saying United could have got Amrabat and Gravenberch for the same amount as Mount, 55 million in total. Wow. Jimmy says, Saudi is targeting sport to open the country and tourism because the oil and gas business will shrink and people will use more electric car. Didn't I read somewhere that electric cars, because of all of the components required for them, end up using like more oil? Brian Casey said, is the person you know Steven Gerrard? Oh wait, I said coaching, it ain't him. Jace Parker says, afternoon, Steve. Just want to say, appreciate your content. Only Jay makes better content. Thank you. Stone says, Howson hoping for a coaching job in Saudi. Honestly, I am 3 fucking wins away from that phone going. Trust me. Fuck me. Where's Robbie Fowler coached to get that job? And what's Steven Gerrard done to get that job? Stop it. SK says, all the clubs over there aren't rich. Yes, workers there take your passport. Did you know? That's what I'd heard, yeah. So it might be one of those. Maybe we go to Saudi and we're not allowed to come back. Can we start a GoFundMe for United, says Gazaroo. I mean, you can, but there's not a prayer you're getting literal billions donated to it, unfortunately, which is what's required. Ben says, would I go? I mean, all jokes aside, I'm open to living in different cultures and experiencing different cultures. Always have been, hence why I like to go travel and go see what we can see. Phil says you wouldn't be able to get a beer. I'm not sure that's the case. Isn't it available for sale in some places, including hotels? I thought that was the case. I would be open to the idea, not just of Saudi, but like even America or somebody like that. I would be open to the idea of it, but I'm balls deep in a project with Stretford Paddock that, on the surface of things, you guys go, really? There's a lot more at play than meets the eye at the moment, and there's a project I want to see through. So there isn't a job. I mean, if it was 5 million a year, yeah, fuck this project's in a bit. But realistically, that's not going to fucking happen, is it? I think if, regardless of what the money, being real, the money I'm going to get offered is not worth leaving this project. So I would want to see this project through. But it's a madness, and there's a lot of people that's going to be getting that phone call, I'm sure. Caleb says, sign me up. Hopefully I become best friends with a prince and live a fun life out there. Daniel says, anyone know why United went for Højlund, knowing he had to wait a few weeks because of injury? The injury only came about once he was signed, didn't he? So that's a mad one. Have I been to South Africa? No, Ginny does have family out there. So she has. Notch says, keep scoring 9 in the Cheshire League and you might get a chance, but cut out what happened on Tuesday. No, Tuesday we drew 0-0. I was happy with how we played, though. You don't get a lot of 0-0s at this level, which tells you that it was a fucking close game. But I was really happy with how we stuck to our plans. We tried to play our football, and heroics from the goalkeeper pulled it off for him. We're back in action again on Saturday, and I want another 3 points. So 3 wins, 1 draw so far to start this season. But I'm fucking disappointed with that, to be honest, because I thought we were worth the win on Tuesday night. But it is what it is. Am I benching Mount on Saturday? No. Can you buy the paddock kits? Yes. So members, there will be a vote coming, I believe, Friday, unless I'm working with someone on something which might delay it, but there should be an email coming out on Friday where I'm going to try and gauge what sort of interest there is in this year's kits. And it won't be like a pre-order, but it'll be like, yes, I'll have one of those. So I'm basically going to ask, like, do you want the kit? If yes, home, away, both, neither, and then what size? And then I'll make our orders on the back of that. But we haven't received our kits yet for this season. So as soon as we get ours, obviously we can start with the fan orders and stuff like that. Maker International says you can drive to Bahrain at the weekend and get smashed, then come back. So alcohol is never too far away. Yeah, while I was in Bahrain, I found out that a local Bahraini insult is drive like a Saudi. That's an insult locally in Bahrain. Love that. And there's a 30 kilometers or 20-mile bridge from Saudi right into Bahrain. And then every weekend you get people coming over from Saudi, having a bev, and then getting back over in the mixer. And I guess that there's no breathalyzers in. I mean, is there breathalyzers in Saudi, or do they just assume that you can't get alcohol here, so we're not going to breathalyze people? Like, what's so mad though? Romario says, white European male wants to gatekeep football by saying Saudi isn't a part of UEFA is golden. I mean, it's not in Europe, mate. Politically or geographically. I mean, you might say, well, the UK is no longer in Europe. But, well, geographically, yes. Politically, no. But Saudi Arabia is not part of Europe, mate. UEFA is the... I mean, hang on. Let me get the actual title of UEFA, but I'm pretty sure fucking European is the second word in that. So, yeah, it is the Union of European Football Associations. That's not gatekeeping. That's literally describing where we are. It's like me saying, I've got a union of Mancunian football coaches, and some bloke from Australia tries to join. What are you doing? Fucking Christ, come on, mate. Theo says Israel isn't in Europe. Okay, I completely accept that, and I think that is a completely different. Israel can't exactly go and play in the Asian Cup or the Middle Eastern Cup because of the fucking political tensions. Can you imagine the shit they would get everywhere they went? Thence they've been allowed into Europe. I don't necessarily agree with it. I'm just saying that's what it is. Mark says, when will you do more on your non-football channel? Enjoyed your long walk. There is more stuff planned with the IRL channel, but the difference is this is like a bit of a This is a bit of a news channel, isn't it, obviously, with football, and there's always stuff to react about. I would like to do more higher-end quality stuff that takes a bit longer to do, and because it's higher-end, it takes longer to do. There you go. That's that. Knight says, if Saudi were in UEFA Champions League, none of their business fits into FFP. Do they unironically think £200 million a year contracts would fit into FFP? Excellent point. Something I hadn't even closely considered, but there you go. Yeah, 1,000,000%. Oddwan Maxim says, whoever comes in will probably be a loan move. I think there will be a loan move this summer, actually. Sabir says, I wish we got the information that is not currently in the public domain and what the evidence was. Also, people would know more about the case should come forward. It's very difficult to do that. Mehdi says, Hannibal needs a fair share of first-team playtime. Yeah, it's not a bad option, to be fair. SK says they would have to follow the FFP rules. True, yeah, but do you know what I mean? PL Data, that's spamming UEFA isn't, but they play in UEFA. Israel isn't, but they play in UEFA. Yes, we know. We've literally fucking spoke about that one. KFA Posse says, Steve, please tell us that the Amazon vans are back. Yes, they are. And I'm going to wrap it up there because I've got Rennie Mullenstein waiting downstairs for me. So I'll see you lot in the next one. Laters. Hey, thank you for watching the video. If you are new around these parts, then don't forget to subscribe. My channel is proudly supported by my community on Patreon. If you'd like to get a little bit of extra content, a Discord group, meetups, five-a-side games, weekly podcasts, behind the scenes, and even an occasional bit of transfer news as and when I get it, then for the price of a pint, you can show your appreciation for the content that we make and get some goodies for doing so as well. Check the link in the description or click the button right here. You'll also find all of my socials here too if you want to follow me on any of those platforms. Nice one.